Welcome to episode 10 of Leadership Shenanigans. I cannot believe that I'm in my 10th episode. Very excited, even though I haven't managed to get these out weekly. I've been very busy, but I'm still ticking away at them. So thank you for those who are following and listening from all around the world. I really appreciate your time. So today in episode 10, we're going to talk about toxic people and how they erode your self-belief. So I'll specifically be talking about how this happens in a workplace. However, this information could possibly be applied to generally in your personal life if you've met other toxic people. As I'm sure most of you can attest to having someone emotionally toxic in their life. And if you don't, well, maybe you need to look at your own behaviour, or congratulations for getting rid of them out of your life. As a consultant, I work with a lot of individuals, organisations, businesses who need support with managing and resolving toxic workplace problems. So what I'm going to talk about today is a lot of the information that I've gathered as part of my work listening to people who have worked with toxic individuals. I like to start by defining what a toxic person is. So I define a toxic person as someone who has no self-insight, no empathy, and knowingly manipulates and sabotages and targets others for their own benefit. If you haven't already listened to my previous podcast, episode 9, which is a recording of a talk I did around the burden of toxic people at work, feel free to go back and have a listen to that, because that will talk in more detail about what a toxic person is and their impact in the workplace more generally. But today I just want to talk about self-belief and how it affects you when you are surrounded by someone who is manipulating you, who is criticizing you, and is making you question yourself. And making you question what you know and what you're capable of. So first of all, let's talk about how someone does that. What do they do to corrode your self-belief and your self-esteem? I've selected 3 ways that this happens. So first of all, it's passive-aggressive criticism. When you're positive about something that you've achieved, the person often finds fault with your success. So they might say, that report was great, but I probably wouldn't have done it that way, and you could have done this instead and it would have been a lot better. They might pull a face and go, really, you think that was good? So they don't even have to criticize. They don't have to say why. They might just give you the impression that they're not really that impressed by what you've done. And that can often make you question yourself. Another way they can do this is by questioning your feelings that you have about something that you've done. And they can be feelings that are positive or negative. But what they'll do is they'll either turn positive feelings negative, or they'll take your negative feelings and try and expand on them. And they'll do this by making you question your own judgment. For example, you might be excited about a new employee starting, and you might express how you're looking forward to this person starting the team. And the toxic person might start by picking holes in that person's character before they've even started in the job. They might say something like, oh, really? Look, I heard they didn't get along very well at their old job with other people. I heard they might have gotten fired if they didn't find another job to go to. So by putting ideas in your head, it's normal for us as humans to start to use those feelings and expand on them and think, oh, okay, maybe I've misjudged this person. Maybe they're not going to be as good to work with as I first thought. And certainly that attitude can then affect the way that you react and respond and work with that person. So the third thing that you'll often see is they're going to home in on your negative self-talk. So the third thing that you'll often see is the person homing in on your negative self-talk. When you don't believe in yourself and you rely on others for positive reinforcement, you'll find that toxic types will home in on your insecurities, and they'll inflate them. So be careful who you share your insecurities with. You might say to them, I've been given this new role as a senior in the team, but I'm really concerned that I don't have the skills and experience to do well in this role. I hope I don't screw it up. And the toxic person might say, well, I don't know. You want to be careful because, if you take on a new role, you're going to be on probation. And if you stuff it up, you're going to lose your job. But I'm sure you'll be fine. So it's that real backhanded comment sometimes. So they're the three things that I've identified about how a toxic person might actually start to erode your self-belief. And so they were positive aggressive criticism, questioning your feelings, and homing in on that negative self-talk. Break. So let's talk about why people might actually do this. Why toxic people want to actually erode someone else's self-belief. Well, really, it's for their own self-interest, and they just don't care about others. There's really no other explanation for it. What's in it for them? But let's talk about this in more detail. I've picked out 3 key things as to why a toxic person might try to deflate someone's self-belief and self-esteem. And the first one is by reducing someone's self-esteem, or reducing the self-esteem of others, it will inflate their own standing. So just remembering that toxic people are all about themselves. So just remembering that toxic people are all about themselves. They don't care about others or how they hurt others. What they care about is me. Me, 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 me. They're narcissists. They just care about themselves. And by reducing how others feel about themselves, they look better. Because in the workplace, someone who is confident is way more attractive to an employer than someone who doubts their ability. So the second reason why is it's easier to reduce the value of others than to increase your own value. So the second reason is it's easier to reduce the value of others than to increase your own. So by reducing the standing of others, a toxic person can automatically look more valuable without changing anything about themselves. If you think about, an internal job opportunity, if an employer is looking for someone who can step up and who can get the job done, they're certainly going to look for someone who has a higher self-belief and confidence, and someone who is concerned with failure. Because if you doubt yourself, so will management. The third thing that I identified was that they often have hidden insecurities. So this is probably a bit of a strange one because in some ways it's not looking at them as a toxic person, but looking at them as a human being. I used to always say to my kids whenever they were being bullied at school or someone was being mean to them that always think about the fact that if someone is being mean to you, the chances are someone else is being mean to them and that they're really hiding behind something. If someone is secure and they can get by on their own ability and merit and likability, then they don't need to hold others back to succeed. I'm a strong believer in the fact that everyone holds insecurities and that even toxic people hold insecurities. And these can either make you or break you. Even the most confident people who seem to have it all together have underlying scars. Toxic people, although they can be damaged, although toxic people can be damaging, underneath they are just human beings with their own hurt. The sad thing is that they feel the need to hurt others for their own success. So to recap, the reason why toxic people reduce the self-belief and self-esteem of others. So to recap, So to recap, why do toxic people reduce the self-esteem of others and self-belief? They do it to inflate their own standing. They do it to increase their own value. And they do it because they have their own hidden insecurities, just like everybody else. So what's the solution? What can we do? I say to my clients that I always say to my clients that the thing to remember is you can change your behaviour, but you cannot change the behaviour of others. You can change the way you respond and react and how you feel about someone, but you can't change how someone responds and reacts to you. You can only focus on what you have control over and what's in your realm of control. And for you, that's your behaviour, that's your reactions, and that's your feelings. So 3 solutions that I've come up with. And some of these are going to sound a bit harsh, so bear with me. Keep your feelings to yourself. Now, this is a tough one for some of us. And I say some of us because I'll tell a complete stranger my life story while standing in the queue at a local coffee shop. However, what I do know is that it's gotten me into trouble with a lot of toxic people in my life over the years. Because it becomes their ammunition. The more they know about you, the more they got to use against you, and the more they have to dismantle your self-confidence and self-esteem and undermine your professionalism. Secondly, trust and believe in yourself. You need to develop a strong sense of self so that the words of others do not result in you doubting yourself. Think about how best to remind yourself. Is it a journal? Is it a post-it note on the fridge? Is it a whiteboard marker on the bathroom mirror? Is it just telling yourself positive things whenever you feel yourself slipping? I'm not a very touchy-feely person, but having affirmations and positive statements about yourself that you can see are really useful. And the third thing you can do is, if the behaviour warrants workplace bullying, report it. If someone is making you feel uncomfortable at work and is constantly criticising you, you should really make a complaint. Or at the very least, book in an employee assistance counselling session. Most employers have a service that is free of charge to employees, and talk through the issue. Don't be afraid to ask for help, especially if it's really starting to erode your sense of self. So to recap, your 3 solutions are: keep your feelings to yourself, trust and believe in yourself, and if the behaviour warrants workplace bullying, then report it. So remember that people who are toxic can erode your self-belief through passive-aggressive criticism, questioning your feelings, and homing in on your negative self-talk. So be mindful of all these things. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. If you do have any topic ideas and you'd like to reach out for this podcast, feel free to contact me via email on info@littlethingsconsulting.com.au. That's info@littlethingsconsulting.com.au. That's info@littlethingsconsulting.com.au. Till next time, thanks for listening. This has been Fiona Gherkin at Leadership Shenanigans.